Yes, innovation in retail media. So as every speaker today has kind of really honed in on, we've moved really quickly from being this high growth advertising channel to becoming, I guess, one of the organising ideas in what it is to be a modern commerce business or a modern retailer. This shift matters because the opportunity isn't just about putting more ads on websites, and it's more about how brands and retailers and marketplaces and platforms and their technology partners are using all of the assets available. So that's data, that's media, it's shopping experiences to make commerce more relevant and more measurable and more useful to us as consumers. So over the past year or so, we've seen this conversation broaden out enormously. Sponsored products and search are still really the foundation of retail media the world over, but innovation is increasingly happening around off-site activation and connected TV, in-store experiences, shoppable content, automation, AI, a bunch of stuff. But at the same time, marketers are asking us these harder questions of how do we prove incrementality, or how do we prove more incrementality? How are we reducing friction between inspiration and purchase and all steps in between, and how do we create experiences that are ultimately doing more than just adding inventory, they're adding value. So that's what we're going to talk about today, hopefully. We're going to look beyond the obvious stuff and explore where the next wave of growth is going to come from, commerce moments that happen in real time, content that moves people from discovery to action, AI, I won't say any more to it than that for now, but to help us unpack what is real and what is emerging and what brands should be paying attention to. I'm very pleased to welcome an awesome panel today. So we've got Casey from Amazon, Keaton from Criteo, Matt from Uber, and Andrea from Vudoo. Give them a bit of a clap while I turn to my next page. So the first, I had tons of questions, and so I'm just going to keep an eye on how we're going for time here. Firstly, I want to look at what's happening beyond on-site ads. So sponsored product ads has been the meat and potatoes of retail media and has been core to its maturation, to be fair. Notwithstanding they're kind of easier to measure than a lot of things, innovation happens in wider spaces. So where are we seeing innovation creating value for brands and retailers and consumers? So Casey, I want to pick on you first, because if retail media is, you know, sponsored product is more than the meat and potatoes for you guys, it's the cattle farm and the potato ranch, you know, it's massive. But when Amazon's thinking about innovation beyond those traditional things, where are you looking?
Awesome, thank you. Hi everyone, it's really nice to be here, and happy Prime Day. Yay?
All right.
Yeah?
Shameless.
All right. Thank you. Sorry. So innovation, when we think about it from an ads perspective, it's not about driving customers to a store anymore, right? Whether that be a digital store or a physical store. Innovation to us is about making every interaction, touch point, every connection between a brand and customer, it's about making that shoppable. And I think that matters now more than ever, because you all saw it today, consumer behavior is changing. So at Amazon, we've done our own customer behavior survey, and what we see is 75% of customers think about shopping multiple times a week. So this whole notion of, I'm going shopping, I'm going to the store, that doesn't exist anymore, right? Every moment is shoppable. And think of your own behavior, right? How many of you are thinking about shopping right now? It is Prime Day. Thank you for all these hand raises. Add it to your cart. No, but or think about how many of you commute to work and you have your phone out and you're browsing, you're scrolling, you're shopping, you're adding to cart, you're on social media, you're being influenced to purchase a product. Or let's say you're at home and you're watching TV, whether you're streaming your favorite show on Prime, Amazon Prime, another plug, or you're watching broadcast TV and you've got your phone out, right? And you're browsing, you're scrolling, you're shopping. So consumer behavior is changing significantly and rapidly, and I think the lines between entertainment and shopping, I think they don't exist anymore. I think they're completely blurred. And the brands that are winning right now are the ones that show up across all these different touch points, and they're all shoppable moments. And they're showing up in a relevant and authentic way, right? Relevant meaning they're leveraging those signals to make sure they're speaking to the right customer at the right time with the right message. So at Amazon, we're trying to stitch it all together. We're leveraging those signals, and we're making every touch point shoppable. So Prime Video, again, let's say you're watching your favorite show on Amazon Prime. Let's say The Summer I Turned Pretty or Off Campus, and you see an ad. That ad is completely shoppable. It's got an add to cart button where a customer can use a remote and add that item directly to their cart. It's a seamless interaction, removing all the different touch points. So long-winded way of saying our innovation is the ad is the new storefront, in my opinion.
Wow. So we don't go shopping, we're always shopping. I weep for the future. That said, that sort of changes the dynamic away from a destination to just being a bit everywhere. So Keaton, I guess from your perspective on that, if that shoppable moment is no longer confined to the retailer or the retailer's assets, what innovations are helping retailers extend beyond the platforms that they own?
So I just want to touch on what Casey said to start with, is sponsored products are still really important, just to clarify, because they're close to the intent, and I wouldn't even call them ads, I'd call them sort of a utility value, because it's a search and response. And they're close to the product context and the transaction. But sort of underlining all of that, and for a retailer, they may have sponsored products, they may have display, but underpinning that is commerce intelligence. And what's made up of that is product data. We've got shopper behaviour. You've got stock quantity and price and sales outcomes. So that commerce intelligence is the real value driver for retailers. It's how you apply that on non-owned assets that is where the magic happens in retail media. So if a retailer is activating on non-owned channels such as AI discovery, CTV, other publishers, it's not so much like a reach game here anymore. It's how that commerce intelligence communicates back to the retailer's ecosystem and drives value for brands in a closed loop, to deliver real measurable outcomes.
Okay. So speaking of everywhere, Matt, you've got people waiting for cars, you've got people in the back of cars, you've got a really different, I guess, touch point, or bunch of touch points for consumers and everyone else on the panel. So you're kind of sitting at the intersection of like mobility, delivery, commerce. How does this change from an Uber worldview?
Yeah, look, we see innovation in somewhat of a different way. We see innovation in understanding that changing consumer behaviour. If I think about the Uber Eats platform 10 years ago, once a week, treat yourself, takeaway meal, now to getting almost anything, shameless plug there. But I think that represents a really interesting opportunity for brands to recognise that the moment is now minutes of discovery through to fulfilment, right? If I look at quick commerce now, it was usually, and some it's largely still talked about speed and getting something to you quick. What we're now seeing, and it's less and less about the actual purchase itself, it's more about the decision relief off the back of that purchase. And so our younger demographic audience that makes up the lion's share of our audience, the actual purchase is secondary. It's the fact that I have now time back in my day to enjoy with friends, family, community, off the back of what they purchased on the platform. And if you then look at that intersection of delivery, mobility, and commerce, we see like uniquely positioned in that. We launched Creative Studio this year to allow brands to show up in those moments through not new formats and sort of more squares on a retail app, but sampling in the back of a car, offers, really activations when you get dropped off somewhere as an example. So really adding a big salience piece to that experience, ultimately making brands more memorable, more useful, and more sort of I guess off the back of performance outcomes as well. Yeah.
Nice one. So you both, Casey and yourself, have both sort of touched on the shoppability of inventory. So that's really your meat and potatoes, Andrea. So
Sure is. Thanks for that, Casey. Do you want to come work for me?
So how does shoppable content then change the way that brands would think more about retail media, particularly when you're thinking about shifting people along from like inspiration through to like purchase and action?
Yeah, I think social commerce kind of really started this whole trend and wave of being able to shop in the moment of discovery and awareness. So for those that don't know, Vudoo is a creative layer. We basically make ads shoppable across the open web and in social, and then basically all the data then is owned by the retailer. We don't disintermediate the brand, the retailer, and the consumer. Everything kind of stays within that environment. So I think exactly to Matt's point before about where innovation for us isn't about creating new ad formats and showing up in new places. It's showing up in the same places in a different way that meets consumer needs or consumer desire, consumer behaviour. So an innovative, I guess, approach to shopping is that every shopfront, every touch point that a brand actually has now needs to be shoppable. Brands need to be able to show up and let their consumers show intent, give them those signals, give them the commerce signals that they're ready to kind of move themselves down the funnel.
Awesome. I think it's really interesting that we still talk about kind of funnels, and I guess at some point you've kind of got to put some kind of categorization into what we do, but from a consumer perspective, you don't kind of see the ad and go, oh, awareness levels 5% higher.
Yeah.
And what impact will
Yeah.
that have to me when I get to my conversion point?
And I think that that's the key point here is that consumers don't shop in funnels and they don't shop in channels. They will see your brand and interact with your brand the way they want to interact with it at that moment in time. So I think as marketers, as media owners and buyers, we need to understand that there needs to be some level of structure because of objectives and measurement and reporting and ROI and money and all of that stuff. But at the same time, putting a consumer lens and a consumer first approach to it.
Cool. So here's the challenge with all of that stuff in I guess making commerce more shoppable everywhere is how do we balance the structures that we need to kind of plan it and invest properly and clearly measure it all while still making it a really seamless experience for us as consumers of content and media and products and so on. And obviously our relationship with searching and finding products is very, very different now than even it was 2 years ago. So I'll pick on you again first, Casey. What lessons can the broader industry take from commerce experiences that are really attempting to feel more seamless for consumers?
Yeah, I think relevance drives that seamless experience, right? So this is where those signals come into play. So at Amazon, we have trillions of first-party browse, shop, streaming signals that advertiser can then leverage to ensure they're speaking to the right customers at the right moment with the right message. And I think Keaton, you touched on it as well. It's come up a couple times. I think it's incredibly important, especially as we look to make all ads shoppable. We've got to make sure we're speaking to the right customer. The other thing I would challenge marketers and brands in the room is we should stop counting clicks and instead let's count how many actions it takes a customer to go from discovery to purchase, and then we should obsess over paring that down, removing those different touch points, collapsing it. And that's what we're trying to do at Amazon when we talk about Prime Video and our interactive video ads. And Twitch as an example with product overlays that are completely shoppable. I think the more we can remove those touch points, the higher the measurable lift will be.
Okay. That kind of segues nicely to you, Matt. I'm fascinated by Uber Eats as a business because since opening up my account to my family, I get the reminder saying you've saved $500 this month. Thinking if I saved $500, how much did I spend? This is ridiculous.
But you saved $500, man.
So I don't even buy a single ad. How are brands leveraging immediacy and convenience as part of that seamlessness?
Yeah, I think if you look at immediacy and convenience, right, and taking a step back, like this mindset that customers are in before they get there or whilst they're there is a transaction mindset, but it's happening all the time, as you said, Casey. Like people are just living in a transaction mindset, right? And so as they're going throughout their day, they're deciding what to eat, what to get, what to buy, what forgotten item did I forget for dinner this evening. So they're thinking about these decisions each and every day, right? I think an example that comes to mind in this sort of curated convenience economy that we call it is, BWS is a great retailer partner of ours. We recognise that there are natural spikes of alcohol purchase intent happening not just on the platform, but as we're going about, heading to bars, restaurants, social occasions, right? And so meeting customers in the back of an Uber with a journey ad, but linking that exposure to an in-store voucher to go ahead and redeem was the outcome that we achieved with that campaign. And that saw a significant result there on same-day redemptions in store, right? So meeting a curated moment with friction removed, I think, is the key thing here. Has a really powerful result off the back of it.
Awesome. This gets really tricky when we kind of draw it back to like one of the big themes that came out of the State of the Nation, which is standardisation. Because between what all of you have spoken about so far, they are remarkably different relationships with consumers and hugely different consumer journeys. So, Keaton, I'm going to give you the tough question on this one. Is it standardisation that we really care about, or is it interoperability that might make the difference to this? Like,
you've asked me the boring question, but that's the
I
most
don't find
important.
this boring at all. I think this is kind of what everyone wanted to know.
No, that's the so how many of you have flown a plane? Probably all of you. Have you thought about all of the standardisation that goes into that? It's enormous. I know Athan, who set up the July Luggage Company, and he said the biggest hurdle he had was actually meeting all of the standards to create it. Once that was met, creativity flourished. So standardisation is this invisible layer that it's the boring part of retail media and advertising in general that just makes everything tick. We have GTINs in retail media. If a Korean person or a brand tries to add that into a Korean retail media network, they'll get nothing coming up because it just it's not widely adopted in Korea, whereas Australia has. So that just makes things run a bit smoother. And at Criteo, we've just recently put in some new dimensions to meet the high level of MRC accreditation to report on ads that didn't show. And so it's that standardization underneath that really makes enterprises start to flourish, but so they don't have to think about how the interconnected systems operate. IAB is doing a great job with the reviews coming from IAB Europe to Australia, so it'd be interesting to see how Coles 360 goes. But as a vendor, all we can do is help retailers get through that.
For sure. Andrea, the part that I think often doesn't get discussed after we go through the standards and everything else is now that it's established, how awesomely creative can we get on this space? So what's your tip on both publishers and I say publishers generally as retail media publishers and normal publishers, whatever.
We know what you're saying.
Creating
It's
commerce
like,
experiences that are actually starting to feel natural.
Yeah, I think this is probably my favourite question, and I'm so glad that Soph was up here talking about the news editorial connection with the commerce as well. I think being able to just start with the audience, and exactly what you said earlier, Matt, it has to be contextually relevant. So I think if you're thinking about would it make sense for Vogue to have an ad for lawnmowers? Possibly not. But if we've got an ad on Vogue for lip liner and that can be shoppable, that's probably really relevant. So, if publishers are actually starting with contextually relevant content that consumers actually want to engage with, and then you're showing up in that space from a commerce perspective, I think that's where we can start to be really relevant. Definitely from an editorial perspective, video, and also that curator content, the creator content, using all your influencers to start to have, I guess, like a trusted voice in a relevant space. But I would definitely say start with the audience.
Awesome. I'm going to stick with you for the next bit that I want to get into.
Yes.
Apparently,
Oh, God.
AI is influencing
Haven't heard of it.
campaign planning and creative development and optimization and audience discovery and measurement. So we do have to kind of go here. There's a lot of focus on generative AI, but there's also significant innovation that happens behind the scene around, I guess, sort of automation, predictive modelling. That's probably not the sexiest of uses, but I wanted to talk a bit about where AI is delivering practical value today and what marketers should be expecting over the next few years. So I thought if I start with you on that, particularly just given, I guess, the proximity to multiple shopping moments.
Yeah.
What role does AI play in really personalising those journeys
Yeah.
in multiple content environments?
Yeah, I think Izzy and, oh my gosh, I forgot your name, I'm so sorry. Brahe, man, nailed it. Izzy and Brahe were talking about this earlier, about how we have to lead with creativity and how AI can play a role in that. I think we're definitely the resizing stuff, I think it is fantastic. Where I can really see it going is thinking about, okay, well, we don't have video yet, but we've got these, we've got these working files and assets. How can we actually turn that into something that's contextually relevant? How can we actually then start to show up in multiple markets, using it to scale, but still showing the right message at the right time to the right consumer? I definitely think consistency of message is important for brand, but showing up with the right message in the right place might actually be different regionally. So I think AI, in the sense that it can help scale shoppable and commerce media in a contextually relevant way.
Cool. So to you then, Matt, you got a person, you got a place, you got a product, you've got a mission, you've got a geography, you've got a bunch of signals. Where's AI fitting into what you're doing with all of that to create a more seamless experience?
Yeah, look, our advantage in this AI space is that we sit on a significant amount of information on real-world utility behaviour, right? And so we look at AI in predicting that in the future far more accurately, and meeting consumers where they are, not just now, but tomorrow, right? And that goes across those micro moments across the week as you're heading in an Uber home on a cold winter evening, or heading to the AFL Grand Final, right? But predicting the behaviour behind that underpins that with obviously measurement. I think looking at sort of on-platform, making seamless customer experiences more frequent. We're introducing things like agentic cart building in the US and testing that. With obviously uploading a shopping image into the cart, automatically filling your cart with favourite items that you would have bought from previously. So the importance for brands then is to show up frequently in those moments to be more memorable, more useful for consumers as it's getting automatically added to the cart. But also it's exciting to see that emerge in new categories on the platform. We're starting to sell lawnmowers on Bunnings, on Uber Eats. Just think about the shopper experience that went into the purchase of that lawnmower in under 30 minutes. Like, that's just really interesting and cool, but it's just the way the future is headed in terms of that shopping mindset. And then as it relates to the Uber advertising sort of organisation within that, we're looking to be more deeply embedded into that AI-driven ecosystem, right? Allowing brands to see that prediction happening almost in real time. But also allowing brands to sort of plan, measure, activate campaigns more seamlessly off the back of it as well.
That would have been me, age 18, in high school. Chocolate milk, strawberry ice cream, and a lawnmower. Sure, why not? For retailers that aren't, I guess, as advanced down that AI path as Uber clearly is, for you, Keaton, where do retailers need to focus when they're first thinking about AI enablement?
So step one is to contact Criteo, but in all seriousness, the retailer's bread and butter is their feed. We've seen, and it's been mentioned quite a lot before, that the feed and the quality of that feed is really important, the attributes about the products. We're starting to see AI gravitate to sort of products that have more information than you would normally get. So start to think about quality, but also information like warranty periods, manufacture of origin, materials, dimensions, all the sort of stuff that could weave itself into a conversation. Because once you've got that, we're all in on AI, not because of it for itself, but because it helps retailers increase basket size. It helps shoppers. We just launched a chat conversation agent with Albertsons in the US, and they've seen now with a sales agent on their retailer site an increase in basket size. But that can only really happen if the feed is up to scratch. And then there's the commerce intelligence feeding into that, so that the base LLM, that's okay. You can get that up and running in Vertex, but it needs commerce intelligence to have that product level awareness to then weave it into the conversation naturally.
Gotcha. Casey, has Amazon done anything at all with AI?
Nope.
There's a lot. Let's try and refine it to the greatest thing that we as an industry can be looking at from Amazon.
I think that AI is removing the friction from the shopping experience. In the US, as an example, we've launched a conversational chat agent. So conversational chat agents, everyone's talking about them, and now they're starting to be embedded in the shopping experience. So on Amazon.com, we have one. And you can go to Amazon.com, and instead of navigating to that search bar or the nav bar, you go directly to your agent, and you ask your agent things like, I have a birthday party for a 9-year-old girl who likes sparkles and ponies, and this is how much I want to spend, and it comes back with recommendations. Or Korean skincare, you could ask it, what's the best Korean skincare product for sensitive skin like mine, get recommendations. Or you could say, I'm making pad thai tonight, give me all the ingredients. And so what it's really doing is it's doing all of the browsing, discovering, reading reviews on your behalf, removing the friction and making it seamless and quick and customized. So I'm very excited about the future of this. And consumers in the US, they are now using the conversational chat agent more than using things like the search bar, because it's so part of their routine now.
Do you think that starts to alter the CX and the way we think about designing stuff? Because we make an online grocery store, and we put stuff in aisles and kind of a digital version of a shelf. You're talking about something completely different.
Yeah, I think that the products now appear in that chat agent. So I think the more for the retailers in the room that you can start incorporating things like that, the better, because consumer behavior is changing. They're going directly to those agents. So if you have one, you're creating a better customer experience. And you heard Keaton, it sounds like it's increasing basket sizes for Albertsons?
Yes.
For Albertsons. And yeah, so that would be my advice, I suppose.
Cool. Did you want to add on something to that?
Oh, I was going to say you started
It's
to talk
not a
about my
shameless plug.
2030 prediction, but we'll get to that in the end.
We'll say that. We'll have time. One topic that I think I wanted to talk today is about sort of partnership and expansion, because a lot of speakers today have talked about, I guess, discontinuity between trade teams are doing this and brand teams are doing that and performance teams are doing this and the agency's planning something else over there. And there's a lot of sort of disconnection, but nothing really good happens in this space unless partnerships work quite harmoniously. So I wanted to sort of talk about the impact of partnering and the way that sort of organisations are using their, sorry for using the word, their ecosystem to make all this kind of hum. So I'll start with you, Matt, because obviously partnerships are kind of the core to the way kind of Uber operates as a commerce business. So how are those partnerships specifically accelerating innovation for you?
Yeah, like we're quite literally a marketplace and a platform built on partnerships. Whether it's the 10 million Aussies using us each month, the sort of the merchants that want to be seen, the brands that want to be bought, or even the earners that are fueling that sort of path to purchase economy off the back of that. And so deeply embedding, going deeper in those conversations, finding out what makes each other uncomfortable in those conversations, and working on that in terms of a partnership and an outcome is very, very crucial. So, I think we strive to go deeper in those partnerships. And one example is our great work with Coles recently, that extending into retail media and allowing brands to sort of show up on the Coles storefront and homepage, capitalising on that incremental shopper opportunity. And that's Coles' words, not just mine there. So that's one sort of angle, but we see this as a necessary thing to sort of continue on in the future, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complementary partnership when you look at something like a physical location or a dedicated store like a Coles, and they partner up with Uber because of the instantaneous distribution, blah, blah, blah. But for you, Keaton, I'm asking you all the tricky ones. Everyone's asking for that sort of standardisation layer. I want to look back and I want to be able to look at all the retail media that I'm running, and I want to have one kind of report. I'm challenged by that for ethical reasons between retailers as well, but can retailers work together to create a more scalable system for advertisers?
It's all right, I'm a solutions architect. So
Do you get a T-shirt for that?
there's a lot of politics at play. I thought I saw a name badge. There was Rakuten in the room somewhere. But anyway, in Japan they're getting together, sort of a network. I'm not sure how successful that would be in Australia though, because we're the land of duopolies, right? And working together in a country like this requires a lot of the quadrant that Mark was talking about, getting everyone together in the same room. But I like to think of it as the interoperability part as well. So as long as you're open and transparent as a tech stack. For example, PackView or Sky can activate against our platform as well as our own demand side. So it's about embracing being an open network. You know, interoperability doesn't mean interchangeability. You can still be unique as a retailer and still be interoperable with partners. As long as you have the levers and control and the guardrails, you can maintain the value that you have as a retail media network.
Casey, you've got direct sales and indirect sales and endemic and non-endemic and content and the rest. What capabilities are you sort of seeing coming down the lines that brands are getting the most value out of from platform partnerships with Amazon?
I think, can I just say one thing too on the endemic and non-endemic thing? I think that, because we were talking about this earlier, and I think with customer behavior changing and the ad becoming the store, I think the notion of endemic and non-endemic will potentially go away. And I know that's a bit provocative, but I do believe that the way that we shop now, it no longer requires a shelf. So I don't see much difference from an endemic ad and driving that transaction for a company like Combank. So just wanted to throw that out there.
That's an interesting perspective. There's been a lot of different sort of comments here around shoppable content. I saw some eyes light up as well when you were talking about, oh yeah, every ad you see on Prime is a shoppable ad. But I haven't noticed that. Is that an identity issue, Andrea? Like, what is it going to take to make shoppable content be the, you know, I guess a more mainstream version of retail media?
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, being a first mover in this space, it's a lot of education. So we've been working, going back to the partnership conversation, working a lot with our partners to educate not only like their teams on how and where to sell shoppable media, but what it actually means from a measurement perspective. And on that point, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but can we get rid of last click attribution? I hate it. Anyone else? No, you want it? Oh, sorry. I hate it. I think, yeah, if there's some standardization in it, yes, I think, who was saying before that standardization creates creativity and then it goes, was that you? Was that you that just said that? Yeah. Is it really just on this panel? Just before? Sorry. Yeah. That, I mean, it feels like that was an hour ago. But that's what I think. Like, if there's standardization, then you know you can kind of like shoot for the stars, and everybody. Then it's just something that everybody's doing. Like social commerce, everybody's got a Meta feed or a Facebook feed or whatever it is. Like, it's essentially all of media will just be shoppable at some point, but it's very much a partnership education and getting the consumers to the point where they can trust in the open web.
Okay.
Sorry, Keaton. That was a really good point. I really liked it.
Somewhat selfishly, I've got to do a wrap up and thank a lot of people, but I do want to do a speed round with you guys, like just a one sentence answer only. It's 2030. What's one innovation in retail media that you think is underdone right now that will be the new meat and potatoes in 2030? Start with you, Casey.
Well, I think predictive commerce. So leveraging AI that will know what you need when you need it, and our AI agents will be the ones shopping on our behalf. And so I think together we need to figure out what that means for us marketers and retail media, but I think that's 2030, I think it's coming. All
hail our AI overlords. Keaton.
I could say something predictable like agentic, but I'm going to go a bit...
I think that Keaton and I are going to have a chat after this.
I'm never sitting you two together again.
No, like you should, at our roadmap, it's all agentic. So I just wanted to go out there. Skeuomorphism is something that you mentioned earlier. So that's basically a term. It's the save icon's like a floppy disk. The digital shelf looks like a real shelf. Humans have this need to replicate real life. So I just think there's going to be an evolution of skeuomorphism for retail stores online by 2030 to sort of replicate more the IKEA model, because now we have AI. You could say, oh, I need an outfit for this event, or I need, what accessories go with this barbecue, or I need a new office setup. And the result, instead of being a grid, will be the same relevancy, monetized, organic SKUs, but built into something that is a little more human and browsable.
Okay.
You know, 2030 is like 3 years away.
We can make it happen.
I reckon we might have some standardised measurement.
Winner.
That's all I got.
Wow, okay. I think I look...
Truly innovative.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Connected commerce, I think, is significantly underdone today, but I think it will be the norm. I hope it is the norm in 2030. There are a lot of industries like travel, transportation, tourism, hospitality that are all not connected, that I think will be connected, not just in a data layer, but in an experience one. And so the AI that is able to understand that and optimize towards the experience will inevitably win.
Awesome. That's all we've got time for on the panel. Please thank all of our panelists for that.